My daughter emptied our bank accounts and ran away with her criminal boyfriend. I was angry, but then my 15-year-old grandson smiled and said, "Grandpa, don't worry, I've already taken care of everything." That same day, my daughter called and started screaming, "If you're watching this video, tell me where you're from or what time it is for you." If I drop the ball today, I won't just lose my grandson. I'll watch him drift into the frost and into the hands of a man who calls punishment love. The ATM swallows my card and blinks a green light like an eye that knows more than I do. 4 numbers I could punch in half asleep roll out of my fingers. I ask the machine for $40. Bread, eggs, coffee. And it coughs back a 2-word sentence that drops my stomach. Insufficient funds. I try again, because denial has muscle memory. Same request, same answer. The woman behind me jingles keys with the restless rhythm of somebody waiting for the world to move. I pull the card, trade it for my savings card, and watch my hands shake while I type the same 4 numbers. Same verdict. Cold air slips through the bank's vestibule like someone cracked a window into winter. I print the receipt because I need something to hold on to. Balance, 000. Last transaction, 9:23 a.m., full withdrawal. I stand there too long, an old man in a flannel shirt staring at a little white slip that says 42 years at the Lakeview Motors plant add up to nothing now. I've got $40 cash in my wallet at most. Groceries, gas, 1 pharmacy copay if I stretch it. The glass doors reflect me back smaller than I felt when I walked in. Inside, the lobby smells like coffee and carpet cleaner. Carla Ames is at the window, a steady woman with the kind of voice that keeps nervous hands from dropping pens. For 15 years, she has watched me deposit overtime checks and tuck away small wins. "Afternoon, Mr. Miller," she says. "What can I do for you?" "My accounts are wrong," I tell her, laying both cards on the counter like evidence in prayer. "The ATM says I'm broke." Her fingers do a soft shoe across her keyboard. The smile fades. "Let me pull up the history." The screen's glow washes her face. "There's a withdrawal this morning at 9:23 a.m. for the full balance in checking and savings. It was made by a joint account holder. Name is Lila Hart." The world tilts. My daughter's name lands like a hammer on my ribs. "That can't be. Lila, there's got to be a mistake." Carla turns the monitor toward me. It's not unkindness. It's proof. Lila's name, my balances, zeros lined up like teeth. "I'm sorry, Mr. Miller. The authorization was proper." Outside, the sun feels too loud. My old Ford starts on the first complaint. God bless the truck. I punch Lila's name on the phone with a thumb that suddenly weighs 1.5 pounds. It rings. Voicemail. I try again, as if persistence can rewind a day. On the 6th try, she picks up. "Dad, I know why you're calling." Her voice has that cooled steel quality I usually only hear when somebody decided a thing 2 days ago, and now they're here to inform me. "Honey, the bank," Carla said. "It's right," she says. "I took it. I deserve it. Dax and I are starting over." That was my retirement, I manage. Groceries, a cushion if I end up in the ER. How am I supposed to live? "You'll make do. You always do." "What about Noah? His school, his chess team, his friends?" "He's with me," she lies. "Kids bounce back." "Bring him home," I say, because the word home is still a spell in my mouth. "We can work this out." "There's nothing to work out. Don't try to find us." The line dies. I call again. The number goes dark. Blocked. I sit in the parking lot and count breaths. In through the nose, out through the mouth, just like the physical therapist taught me after the shoulder thing. Then I drive, slow, past the hardware store that still keeps my extra house keys, past the diner where my coffee has a mug and a saucer before I sit. I don't point the truck anywhere. I let muscle memory take the wheel and it carries me to Riverside Park, to a bench with my name in the grain. Ducks dab in the water like the past is still happening. When Lila was 4, she tore stale bread into bits with such careful little hands. "Not too big, Daddy. The babies can't chew big pieces." 8 years later, high school valedictorian, she said from a gym stage that I taught her hard work beats bad luck. I believed her. 15 years after that, she's emptied my life into a man's backpack. The phone is a cold square in my palm. I try the neighbor, Hank Lewis, because Hank has eyes like a streetlight and a badge that's seen its share. He's off shift, but he answers anyhow. I mention a name, Dax Turner. He goes quiet for a beat. "Frank, I know that motorcycle," he says. "Turner's a taker. Robbery on his jacket. Fraud. Bar fights with hospital bills at the end. Watch your doors. Change your passwords. Better, move money Lila can't reach." I thank him, knowing I'm 3 hours late to that advice. Back home, the house greets me without judgment. The photos look like they belong to other people, people who expected the future to behave. My grandson's backpack hangs by the door. The chessboard is mid-problem on the kitchen table, white to move and mate in 3. My key rattles in the lock like it's asking me if I'm sure. Upstairs, Noah's game music floats through the ceiling, all bright trumpets and impossible victories. I make coffee I don't want and practice sentences I can't stand. "Son, your mother took our money and ran?" "No." "Noah, we need to talk about changes." "Too vague." "She made choices that hurt us." True but hollow. I stand at the bottom of the stairs and hold the banister my granddad carved in 1952, back when wood and vows both lasted. "Noah," I call, steady as I can. "5 minutes?" "Right there, Grandpa. Saving my file," he says. He's careful. He saves. He's not his mother in that way. He comes down with that lanky 15-year-old gait that still remembers being 10. He sits close enough to say he's with me, and not so close that I can't breathe. I reach for his hand. "Son, there's something about your mom." "I know," he says. No shock, no widening eyes. "She took your money and left with Dax." It feels like someone opened a freezer door in my chest. "How? When?" "I heard them Monday night," he says, voice calm in a way that makes me proud and breaks me at the same time. "I was getting water. The door was cracked. They were talking about accounts and getting out clean. I needed time to figure out how to fix it, and I wanted you to have one more normal day." He stands, crosses to his backpack, and brings back a manila folder fat with paper. He lays out a photocopied mugshot, a wanted poster from the Riverton City PD website, dates and aliases, and a summary that outpaces some detectives I've met. He shows me a map with a River State University address circled in red. He printed it at lunch, he says, because Mrs. Henderson lets you use the lab if you ask right. He has notes in blocky, teenager neat, robbery at Murphy's Corner Market, plate numbers, make and color of a car the way a kid would remember a Pokemon evolution line. He has a confirmation number from the anonymous tip line he called at 9:45 a.m. "I told them where to find him," he says. "Address, car, everything." My breath leaves me like I forgot I was holding a cinder block. While I was stumbling through a day that refused to stand still, my grandson was making a plan, and then carrying it like a bricklayer carries brick. "Son," I say, because the word feels more true than it ever has. You're braver than a boy ought to have to be. I learned from you, he says. You protect family. That's all I did. He studies my face for a second. Are we going to be okay? Like, money for groceries, the internet, my tournament fees. I open my mouth to tell a truth we'll survive, and another truth wanders out with it. A memory I kept on purpose. Come with me, I say. We climb the stairs together. My bedroom is the same as it was yesterday. Oak frame bed, dresser, nightstand with my reading glasses, and the photo of the woman who taught me how to grow tomatoes and patience in the same season. I kneel and reach under the bed, fingers finding the lip of a gray fireproof box that doesn't look like much. The key lives taped under the nightstand. I'd tucked it there when the world was quieter. Lila walked past this room 1,000 times and never asked about the little box. I turn the key and lift the lid. Inside, bills in tidy stacks, rubber banded by denomination, a small ledger with my crabbed pencil tallies, one of those sharp little pencils they hand you at the bowling alley. 2 years of slipping 20s and 50s away from my pension, because my granddad lived through the Depression and never trusted all eggs to one basket. We count together. His voice is sure as he calls the numbers. When we're done, the amount isn't a miracle, but it's something you can stand on without sinking. 3,200, I say. Enough to breathe while we figure things out. Noah nods, and I see 15 settle on his shoulders like a jacket that finally fits. So we're not going to starve. Not on my watch, I say. Then, softer, because promises sound different in a room with old wood and photographs. Not ever. We put the money back in the box, lock it, and return the key to its small, faithful corner. Back downstairs, Noah pulls the chessboard forward. We never finished that endgame, he says. Your move. For 2 quiet minutes, I pretend to think about chess, when really I am memorizing the shape of this room with just the 2 of us in it. Then the phone rings. We both look at it. The sound is a saw blade through the stillness. Could be City PD, Noah says. Could be your mother, I say. He nods, steady. Either way, we're ready. I let it roll to voicemail the first time because I want control of exactly nothing except this moment. On the second ring, I pick up. The line fills with a storm before I hear a voice. How could you do this to me? The words come hard, the way ice hits a windshield. Lila. They took him. They took Dax. They knew where we were. You called them, didn't you? Noah looks at me and I see the boy and the man both waiting to see who I am. Yes, I say. One word, level as a carpenter's bubble. I called. Silence stretches, then snaps. You turned on your own daughter. You emptied my life, I say, and you tried to take my boy. You'll send me something, she says, changing strategy like a driver who missed one exit. You have your pension. No, I say. What do you mean, no? I look at Noah, who is looking at me like a chess coach. Looks at a student who finally found the line that was there all along. I mean, I won't fund my grandson's harm, I say. I mean, your choices have consequences. I mean, we're done with the old pattern. I set the phone down gently. It rings again. The third time, I let the machine catch it, and I hear my own voice say, we're not available, leave a message. No message comes. We play chess. I blunder my bishop because my head is loud, and Noah doesn't make a show of noticing. He slides a knight into a square that changes everything and gives me a look that says he sees the board. This one with wooden pieces, and the other one with us on it. Night settles. I check the front door twice and the back door once. I turn the deadbolt and a switch in my chest at the same time. The house is smaller without Lila's chaos, and bigger without it too. I write 3 lists at the kitchen table. Passwords to change, people to call, appliances I can unplug to save a little on the electric. The coffee can wait. The porch light can't. At 9:12 p.m., a text lands from Hank. Heard the call, good tip. We'll keep you posted. I show Noah, and he nods once like a man at a graveside hearing the last shovel of dirt. We don't need fireworks. We need sleep. Before bed, I take the little box out one more time. I don't open it. I just feel its weight in my hands. The money is useful. The habit that made it is gold. Emergency, I whisper. And the word doesn't sound like fear. It sounds like a plan. I crack the bedroom window for air and listen to the house breathe. In that in-between, I think about discipline. The word as Dax uses it, which is just cruelty with a haircut, and the word as my father used it, which is love that keeps the porch light on and the gate latched. In the morning, there will be eggs and algebra and a phone call to the utility company explaining that payments will be on Thursdays now. There will be a trip to City PD to put my name on paper and a call to a lawyer about guardianship. There will be a walk through the hardware store for a better deadbolt and for 2 brass keys that say the same thing. We are staying. I sleep like a man who has spent all day standing in a river and finally found a rock. When the morning comes, it comes clean. Noah eats 2 slices of toast and asks if we can sharpen his pencils because geometry day always seems duller otherwise. We change 3 passwords and laugh once when I can't remember the security question answer from 2009. Favorite team? The Tigers, of course. I tuck the manila folder into my jacket and tell the boy to be home by 3. He nods. On the porch, he hesitates and then comes back and hugs me, quick like boys do, but it's there. On the way to the station, I pass the bank. The sun glances off the glass doors. The ATM has the same green eye, watching. I don't go inside. Not yet. The important account sits at my kitchen table, eating toast and finishing homework. And as long as I don't fail him, the ledger will balance. By noon, the house knows our new rhythm. The kettle whistles, the washer thumps a tired sock against the drum, and the clock over the stove counts a steady, ordinary courage. I've changed 3 more passwords, written them twice, tucked 1 copy under the sugar canister and the other in the little ledger in the fireproof box. I've moved the box. I won't say where, out loud, or even to myself for long. Noah finishes his homework at the kitchen table, 1 headphone on, 1 off. I like that about him. He leaves 1 ear for the world. When I step out to the porch for a breath of air, the late sun hangs like a coin you could almost reach, and a delivery truck eases up the street. The mail goes into the slot with a sound that has always meant nothing more than coupons and sweepstakes. Inside the stack, there's a white envelope with the electric company's blue logo. I open it with a butter knife because I don't own a letter opener and never needed one. Past due stamps the page like a bruise. There's a shut-off date circled in red from a machine that doesn't care about my grandson's algebra or the way windows sweat in winter when a house loses heat. They want last month and this one by Friday. I fold the page in half and then in half again. We'll call them, I say. Noah looks up. I keep my voice even. We'll set a plan. We can do that. He nods and goes back to his worksheet, pencil steady. When he doesn't flinch, I don't either. I dial and sit through a melody that thinks it's soothing. When a woman finally answers, I give her my name, my account number, the story she doesn't ask for. We can do the minimum today, I say. The rest in 2 Thursdays. She makes little typing sounds that mean my life is currently being arranged by someone 3 towns over. All right, Mr. Miller, she says. We can split it, the second half by the 26th. I repeat the date back to her like I'm tying a knot. Then I write it on the calendar in the hallway. Thank you, I say, and the words feel like exact change. I take 200s from the box, put on my jacket, and walk them down to the payment center, because I don't like trusting the internet for things that decide whether my grandson can see his homework after dark. Back home, I put the receipt under a magnet shaped like a tomato Noah made in 3rd grade. He joins me at the counter and we peel potatoes. He prefers the old metal peeler with the loose handle. I prefer the one that fits my hand like a wrench. We trade when he nicks his knuckle. Pressure and angle, I remind him. Neither one alone does the job. At 4:30, the phone rings. I don't jump. I look at it the way you look at a barking dog behind a fence. The screen says unknown caller, which these days means everybody and nobody. I let it go, but the voicemail pops up before the last ring. I press play. Dad. Her voice has miles in it and a sore edge. You have to bail him out. It's a misunderstanding. They're saying he violated some old order. It wasn't like that. He's not what they wrote about. Please. You can take it from your retirement. I'll pay you back. I set the phone on the table like it's something fragile that might still explode. Noah keeps his knife on the cutting board and looks at me. Not it. Boundary? He says, soft. Boundary, I say. The word tastes new and right. I call her back because I'm the kind of man who answers and says a thing straight. She picks up in one ring. Thank God. I knew you. No, I say. Quiet and full as a closed door. Silence, then a scoff that tries to be a laugh and doesn't make it. You won't help your own daughter? He is not my daughter, I say. And I don't invest in harm. She drops the voice she uses to charm landlords and teachers and men behind counters. The next one is all blade. You don't get to decide what my family needs. I'm deciding what this house needs, I say. It needs quiet, safety, and groceries. It needs the internet on so a boy can submit a chemistry lab. It needs locks that work. You always liked things that don't talk back, she says. Locks, engines, checklists. No wonder, Mom. Enough. It comes out sharper than I planned, and I don't apologize for it. You may call to talk to your son, not to ask for money, not to arrange pickups with men I won't let on this street. If you want to see him, we will set it up with a counselor here, in this town, in daylight hours. If you arrive with Turner, you won't come in. If you yell, I'll hang up. If you show up uninvited, I will call Hank, and he will bring friends. You think you can threaten me? I think I can make the rules for this door, I say. And I'm making them now. She breathes the way a kettle does right before it screams. You've ruined everything. I'm trying to repair what's left, I say. The line goes dead. I put the phone back on its little plastic cradle like that's a thing people still do in this century, and I look at the boy across from me. He slides the potatoes into a pot and doesn't make a speech. He doesn't need to. We eat by the window, meatloaf I stretched with oats, potatoes, peas from the freezer. Noah pours the gravy exactly in the middle and lets it find the edges. After, we make a list on the back of an envelope. Cut and keep. Undercut, we write cable sports package, the twice-a-month diner breakfasts, anything that comes in a glossy box. Under keep, School fees, gas to the job site, chess club dues, the good boots that don't make your back ache. I add a third column, learn. In it I write, how to fix the dripping tub, how to roast a chicken without drying it to chalk, how to say no without turning it into a fight. At 7, Hank knocks twice and lets himself in the third time after I shout, "Come on." He holds up a little brown bag from Murphy's Corner Market with 3 sugar donuts I didn't ask for and a locksmith's kit I did. "We're changing the deadbolts," he says, "and we're going to talk through a code word." Noah perks up. "Like in spy books?" "Like in regular life when you wish it were a spy book," Hank says. He's off duty, sweat still drying at his collar, and he smells like wintergreen gum and the cool metal of a cruiser. He spreads parts on the coffee table. "What word?" "Tomatoes," I say, without thinking. "Why tomatoes?" Noah asks. "Because your grandmother grew them, and because you made mine out of clay, and because it's a word that doesn't wander into other conversations without being invited," I say. If someone calls claiming to be from school or the bank and they don't know tomatoes, you hang up. If someone shows up at school and says I sent them and they don't say tomatoes, you don't get in the car, even if they're me. Even if they're you? Even if, I say. Because I might forget to say it and that's fine. But the answer is still no until they do. We change the locks. Hank shows Noah how the screws seat, how you don't muscle a stripped head, how leverage gives a small man the strength to move a stubborn thing. Noah installs the strike plate with a focus he usually keeps for endgames. I stand back and let him, because there are 100 kinds of protection, and one of them is teaching a boy where wood meets metal. When we're done, Hank tests the door twice. "Solid," he says. Then he sits and drinks the coffee I shouldn't serve this late. "Frank, Turner has friends, but he doesn't have a crew that sticks. He'll reach out from the county lockup, but no one with a job and a mortgage is going to come do his favors. He's trouble at a distance." "What about up close?" I ask. "Up close, he knocks hard and talks loud," Hank says. "But the law's on your side, and so am I. You call me. You call dispatch. You film with your phone if you've got the mind to. Mostly, you keep doing exactly what you did today." After he leaves, the house feels like it put on weight in a good way. The new locks click with a clean sound that sits right in the ear. Noah and I set 2 chairs by the front window and play a quiet round of Spot the Cars. He knows them all, model, year, trim, because he keeps lists of things the way I used to. A sedan idles by the curb longer than it should. We both look without making a show. It moves on. At 9, the phone lights up again. Private number. I answer because boundary doesn't mean silence. It means standards. "Miller residence," I say, and the word residence makes my spine stand up. "Old man?" a man says, using the kind of voice that tries to be low enough to scare. It's Turner. You can hear the facility in every buzz and echo. "You think you hurt me today? I've slept on worse. I've had colder food." "You're right," I say, "but you won't eat here." He laughs, like that was the joke he was hoping for. "You're a disciplined man. I can respect that. Tell the boy I'll make him right. A boy needs a hand that doesn't shake." "My hands are steady enough to keep him safe," I say. "You can't keep him from his mother," he says. "Blood finds blood." "I won't keep him from his mother," I say. "I'll keep him from you." The line clicks hard, as if someone hung up the whole building. I write the time and the gist of it in the notebook I started this morning. When your life moves into the realm of police reports, you keep your own. We make ready for bed the way soldiers pack for a harmless day, on purpose. The porch light gets a new bulb. The curtains close, not like fear, but like evening. In the hallway, I tack our schedule to the corkboard. School, work, Tuesdays with the chess club, Thursdays for the grocery run, Sundays for sauce and laundry. I add a line that says, Saturdays, fence posts. Fence posts? Noah says. The north side leans, I tell him. We'll set them deep and plumb. It'll teach us both something. He grins a little. You already know how. I'm out of practice, I say. Practice needs a project. Before he goes up, we walk through the drill. If someone knocks after 10, I answer from the second floor window. If someone calls his phone and says there's an emergency, he calls me from the house line and uses the word tomatoes. If he's scared, he says it twice and I come to him. He nods. He doesn't roll his eyes. He understands that fear and readiness are cousins who live on the same street. In my room, I sit on the edge of the bed and feel the quiet. It doesn't press. It holds. I take out the photo of my wife and set it where the moon can see it. We're all right, I tell her. And it isn't a lie. Not even with the unpaid bills and the man with a voice like a bad door. We are all right because the boy is asleep under my roof, and the house knows which shoes are his, and that is a kind of wealth. Sometime after midnight, I wake to tires on gravel. Not a car, too low, too many teeth on the sound. A motorcycle somewhere nearby, revved and then cut. I stand at the window in the dark and wait. The world offers me wind in the maple and a stray cat's complaint. No knock, no voice. Just a noise meant to say I was here. In the morning, the first thing Noah says when he sees me is, tomatoes. I tell him tomatoes back, and we smile like conspirators who chose gardening over war. On the way out the door, he touches the new deadbolt. Feels different, he says. It is, I tell him. So are we. When he leaves for school, I follow him out to watch him turn the corner. He doesn't look back. That confidence, his or mine, I take it as a good sign. I have a list in my pocket and a pen behind my ear. Today I'll buy a better flashlight, a second phone charger to live in the glove box, 3 extra smoke detector batteries, and a pad of forms from the office supply store. Because I like to fill out my thoughts with straight lines. The phone will ring again. People will insist I am cruel and small and wrong. Let them. A boundary is a kindness once the heat burns off. It tells everyone where the safe ground is. I lock the door and the house agrees with me, one clean click at a time. By 9, I've learned that courage looks like a pen that doesn't skip. The lobby of Riverton City PD carries the usual mix of floor cleaner and old coffee. A bulletin board lists block watch meetings and a flyer about scams that think they're clever. I sign my name on a clipboard that has felt 1,000 worried hands and sit in a row of chairs built for people who don't plan on staying long. A woman in a navy sweater calls me back. Victim Services, her badge reads, and her eyes say she knows the worst day of a man's year when she sees it. I'm Ms. Diaz, she says. Let's talk. I tell it once, the short version, then again, the long one. How the ATM went cold, how the teller's screen lit up with my daughter's name, how a man with fists for principles has been orbiting our family like a bad planet. I do my best to keep my voice level, like holding a board steady while you cut. She listens with both hands still, which is a gift. All right, she says. Here's the hard part first. If your daughter is joint on the accounts, the withdrawal is authorized. It's not theft in the way the bank can chase, I'm sorry. I nod because I expected the hammer before it fell. What can we do that's not nothing? We can document, she says. Open an incident report for your records. It helps later. Guardianship, restraining orders, any civil claim. We can add the call from Mr. Turner last night. We can note the safety measures you've taken. She ticks them off on her fingers. Locks, code word, school notified. Today, I say. As soon as we're done. She slides over a stack of forms. The paper smells faintly like a school supply aisle. There's also a victim compensation program, but it's for crimes that meet the statute. We can still file in case related charges stick. And, this is separate, we have a list of elder law attorneys who do sliding scale. Many help grandparents seeking temporary guardianship. Temporary, I say, chewing the word. How temporary? In our county, a judge can grant an emergency order that lasts until a hearing, she says. A week, maybe 2, then you come back with documents and a plan. If Mom contests, it'll be noisier. If she doesn't show, it can be quiet. I sign where she points. Noisy or quiet, I'll show, I say. The boy needs paper that says what we already know. We're together, and he's safe. She prints me copies, staples neat, and hands me a card with her direct extension. You're doing the right things, she says. And I believe her, because people who live in rooms like this do not hand that sentence out like candy. Out in the truck, I sit with my hands on the wheel and make myself breathe all the way down. A call to the courthouse clerk connects quickly. The woman who answers has a voice like gravel and gospel. Guardianship packet, she says. Probate window, 3rd floor. Filing fee is $150 unless you qualify for a waiver. You'll need the boy's birth certificate, proof he lives with you, and a plan for school and medical. Birth certificate. Proof. Plan. I write them big on the back of an envelope. Add a square around each like I'm framing pictures. The hospital will have records. So will Lila's old file folders in the hall closet, unless she took those too. I call the school to confirm what they need to update emergency contacts. Driver's license and a utility bill with your address, the secretary says. I tell her the electric notice is recent, if not pretty. She laughs kindly and tells me it counts. The 3rd floor of the courthouse is colder than the street. The probate window woman slides me a stapled packet thicker than a Sunday paper. You fill. We stamp. Judge sets a date. In the meantime, she taps the top page. Ask for ex parte temporary guardianship. That's your emergency. How long? I ask. Judge likes Wednesdays, she says. If you file today, hearing next Wednesday, 9 a.m., bring the boy if you can, and anyone who can say you're the daily parent. Teacher, neighbor, pastor, coach. Chess coach, I say. We have one of those. She smiles, barely. Good. Judges like kids who think ahead. I step away to a hallway table, take the pen I trust, and start. Mother's name, father's name. I write Lila's in careful letters like I'm setting a stone. The blank for father sits like a missing tooth. Under describe why guardianship is necessary, I write what a judge needs. Abandonment of residence, unsafe associates, financial exploitation. I add that the boy has stayed enrolled at River State High, that I attend conferences, that he has a bed in a bedroom with a door that locks and a window that opens, and that he likes his eggs over easy. That last detail doesn't belong on a form, so I cross it out. But I leave the ghost of the ink, because the truth is the truth whether a page needs it or not. At the bottom, filing fee, $150. I count in my pocket. I've got 82 and some change, a folded 10, and the money for my pharmacy copay stamped across an orange slip in my wallet. I go back to the window. Waiver? I ask. She flips me 2 additional pages. Fill these, bring proof of income, pension statement, Any benefit letters? I'll pass it to the judge's clerk. It takes another half hour and a walk back to the truck for papers I didn't know I needed. On the second trip, the elevator sticks between floors for a breath, and I study the numbers like they're praying. On the third, I hand in a stack that looks like a man's life turned into rectangles. We'll call by 3 about the waiver, the clerk says. You'll still owe a process server fee to notify Mom. $25 if she's in county, more if not. More, I say, because of course. She's somewhere new every week. Back home, the house feels like it got taller while I was gone. I call the school, we set our meeting for 2:30. Noah's counselor will be there, the principal too. I pull land records from the desk, find an old folder with his immunization record and a photocopy of his Social Security card. I dig for the birth certificate and find only a note where it should be. I grab this, L. I sit on the edge of the bed and let the anger pass through like a storm that doesn't get to stay. The health clinic on Maple can print a new certificate, the website says, for $30. The county office can do an official copy for $25 if I can wait a week. I choose the clinic. Hearings in 6 days and judges like seals. That's $30 I don't have unless I move dollars from another box in my mind. At 1, I drive to the clinic, park between a dented minivan and a motorcycle that's all chrome and loneliness, and pay out of my grocery envelope. The woman at the counter stamps a raised seal that makes the paper look like it could stand up on its own. Congratulations, she says, because she says that to every customer who holds a proof of a life, no matter the reason. At 2:30, Noah, the counselor, and I sit in a small room with a mural of kids climbing a tree that looks like it has good opinions. Ms. Henderson has a kind smile and a binder labeled Family Contacts in big teacher letters. We've seen some changes, she says. Noah's been steady in class. We want to keep him that way. I explain the guardianship hearing. I pass her a copy of the temporary request, my driver's license, a proof of address no one would put on a refrigerator door. If you can write a letter saying he lives with me, that I bring him and pick him up, that I meet with teachers, that would help. She nods and writes while we talk. Noah, she says, anything you want to add? He looks at his hands first, then up. I'm good at living where things are calm, he says. I like turning in work on time and knowing where the cereal is. The principal signs the letter like it's a dignitary's photo. We update the file. Who can pick up? Who can't? Under restricted, Ms. Henderson writes in neat blue ink, Lila Hart, mother. Contact through school only. No access without prior arrangement with guardian. It looks harsh on the page. It feels like air in the room. At 4, the courthouse calls. Fee waiver approved, the woman says. You'll still need to pay the process server if we find Mom. If we can't, we'll post notice at the courthouse and go forward. Thank you, I say, and put my hand over the phone so I can close my eyes and tell myself to keep standing. At the pharmacy, I learn my copay climbed by $10 since January. Insurance changed tiers, the text says, sympathetic but immovable. I count bills. The math says medicine or meat. I choose medicine because one keeps a man on his feet, and the other is more forgiving this week. At the register, I ask about generics and sign a paper that says I agree to them. The bottle rattles with exactly 1 month's certainty. Back home, Noah slices carrots at the table like he's lathing wood. I show him the schedule. Hearing next Wednesday, 9 a.m., I say. We'll wear shirts with collars. Ms. Henderson wrote a letter. Hank will come if he can. He nods, and then his face does a calculation. Tournament Saturday? I pull the envelope that says chess and count what's left. 10 for the entry fee, 5 for the bus. Nothing for the after-tournament pizza that tastes like a team. We'll still go, I say. We'll make peanut butter sandwiches and we'll eat them on the steps. Anyone who likes you will like us doing that. He grins. Coach eats peanut butter because he says it keeps his hands steady, he says. We'll match. We spend the evening with forms. I show him how to make copies on the printer that jams if you look at it hard. He stamps dates in red like a tiny clerk. We file each pile in a manila folder with a label I write twice. When we're done, the coffee table is a map of our next week. At 7, Hank drops by and I hand him a copy of everything because that's smart, not paranoid. He whistles softly at the birth certificate. Nice seal, he says. Then he gets serious. Frank, the county won't let Turner out until his arraignment Friday. Even then, the judge could hold him on the violation. Either way, I want you to have this. He sets a small canister on the table. Pepper spray. Legal. Use only if you need to. Keep it by the door, not in a drawer. I was hoping you brought a magic spell, I say. That's the next canister, he says, deadpan. It's on back order. After he leaves, I do the budget with the pencil that always finds the weak board. Pension in. Utility payment out. Medicine out. Birth certificate out. Groceries thinner. Gas paired. There's a line where the numbers don't quite shake hands. I stare until something practical shows up. It does. A note from Murphy's Corner Market's bulletin board floats up in my head. Small engine repairs. Ask for Frank. I never put that note there. Maybe I should. I can fix a mower in my sleep and a snowblower before coffee. Tomorrow I'll copy a sign, tack it under the lost cat flyers, and see if the neighborhood has a few machines that want to run again. Money that comes from making broken things work feels right. At 9, the phone rings from a number I recognize but wish I didn't. I let it go to voicemail. Lila's voice is smaller than yesterday, like she's talking through cotton. Dad, they're not letting me see him yet. They say I have to get something in order first. If you file for guardianship, I'll fight it. You can't just take him from me. Noah is doing geometry, drawing lines that meet where they should. I don't play the message out loud. I delete it, then write down the time and the gist in my notebook. Facts for later. Love is for now, and love sometimes looks like not letting a boy hear his mother on the worst version of herself. Before bed, I lay out our shirts for court. His clean school polo, my blue button-down with the collar that behaves. I iron both because judges like straight lines, and so do I. I set the stack of folders by the door, right next to the shoes we use for important errands. I tape a list above the handle. Birth cert, school letter. Incident report, proposed orders. Pens. The house has never seen so many capital letters. It doesn't mind. In the quiet, my phone buzzes with a text from Ms. Diaz. Reminder, bring any photos or texts relevant to safety. A. Victim services. I write back, will do. Thank you. The thank you is large enough to include every person today who answered on the first ring and made a path through a thicket of rules. I sleep like a man who expects to be woken, and at 3:11 a.m. I am, by the sound of tires rolling slow and stopping at the end of the block. I go to the window and stand without moving. A car idles where the street light loses its nerve. Then it pulls away. Maybe I imagined it. Maybe I didn't. Either way, the house stays holding. Morning will bring the courthouse again, and the school, and a printer that jams less if you curse at it, and then apologize. It will bring a stapler that says you're serious and a neighbor who needs a mower to hum before the weekend. It might bring a call from Lila that makes me want to throw the phone into the sink. It will definitely bring eggs and toast and a boy who eats both and then asks if he can carry the folder with the seal because it looks official and he likes the way official feels. Some men in my family built barns without permits. I'm not them. I will build this home with paper and signatures and a judge's pen. I will make the rules clear, not because I like rules for their own sake, but because boys grow tall and true when the lines are straight and the gate is latched. If there's a storm next week, and there will be, it can do its shouting in a room where my name is on the first line and the boys' is on the second, and where the law and I agree on at least one thing. We showed up. The morning breaks with a noise like a coin dropped on tile, sharp, small, and telling. The weatherman said a front was coming. The front arrives. The house wakes colder than it should. When the furnace kicks on, it wheezes and then thinks better of it. I pull the front panel and listen. The blower motor has a wobble. Bearings. On a different week, I'd buy the part, install it with a nut driver and an hour of patience. On this week, I write blower motor on a strip of masking tape and stick it to the fridge under a new word I'm learning to live with. Lie away. Noah comes down in his collared shirt and hoodie and rubs his hands under hot tap water. Furnace mad? Pouting, I say. We'll keep it at 66, wear socks, drink something hot. We'll be fine. He nods like a sailor who trusts the captain more than the weather. We eat eggs that sit right on the plate and leave the pan shining because I used the good oil. I check the folders by the door and run the list one more time like a pilot. Birth cert, check. School letter, check. Incident report, check. Proposed orders, check. Pens, always. The truck coughs awake, throws a light on the dash, and thinks about idling. I pat the dash like it's a shoulder. You and me both, I say. The check engine can sing its song all it wants. We're riding the bus today. I lock the house with the new click I like, and we walk to the stop with our collars up and our breath practicing for winter. The bus groans warm air at us, and the driver nods hello with the relief of a man who sees a lot and appreciates the quiet ones. We sit halfway back, not so near the heater that our knees forget their knees. Noah holds the folder with the seal and looks like a kid on a field trip that happens to be his life. I look at his profile and make a bargain with the day. If he walks out of that courthouse with less fear than he carried in, I'll count it a win, even if the world hands me a handful of new problems before dinner. Riverton's courthouse sits on a hill that pretends a town this size has a skyline. The wind hits the building, and the building pretends not to notice. Inside, fluorescent lights flatten everything but the flags and the wood. Ms. Diaz meets us at the security line with a nod that says, "I'm where I said I would be." The guard checks my pocket notebook like I might be the kind of man who hides a sword in a spiral. Third floor, probate. The hallway benches are filled with men in their best shirts and women in their best patience. A kid in a stroller kicks off one sock, and his mother laughs like this is not the worst day she's ever had. Not while there's a baby with toes. Hank slides into the hallway 10 minutes later in a suit that looks like it's seen things and survived. He touches 2 fingers to his forehead in a salute he pretends is a scratch. At 8:58, the clerk opens the door to courtroom 3B and says, "Guardianships." We file in. The air smells like paper clipped to other paper, and a little bit like rain. Through high windows, I can see the sky drop its color by the handful. The judge is a woman with iron gray hair and a voice you could use to find your way out of a dark gym. She runs through the docket like she knows what she's doing and what she won't let anyone do. When she says my name, it's like she's known it a while. Mr. Miller, she says, you're requesting temporary guardianship of your grandson, Noah Hart. Is Noah present? Yes, Your Honor, I say, and Noah stands, chin up, eyes forward, not trying to be taller than he is. And the mother, Ms. Hart? The door opens like it owes someone money, and Lila slides in with hair that has rain in it and a coat that used to be mine. No lawyer, no folder. Just the old confidence zipped up against the cold. Here, she says, and the word echoes once in the room and then finds a seat. Ms. Hart, do you consent to the petition? The judge asks, eyes on the page and then on the person, back and forth like a metronome that knows the tune. No, Lila says. He's controlling. He won't let me see my son. He wants to keep him so he can feel important. Do you have a current address, employment, and a plan for the child's schooling? The judge asks, neither friendly nor unkind. Lila blinks like the questions are birds she didn't expect. I'm between places. I have prospects. School can transfer. He can make new friends. Do you currently live with Mr. Turner? The judge asks, eyes not blinking. Lila flinches. That's not relevant. It is, the judge says. There's an incident report noting safety concerns. Mr. Turner is not present, but I'm advised he's in custody. Lila folds her arms. He's misunderstood. I'll file that under not today, the judge says, almost to herself. Mr. Miller, step up. I stand at the table that has seen families turn into paperwork for more years than I've been a grandfather. The microphone makes me sound like I'm telling the truth, which I am. State your name for the record. Franklin Miller. How old are you, Mr. Miller? 71. Do you have any health conditions that would prevent you from caring for a 15-year-old boy? I have a shoulder that complains if I ask it to put a fence post in without warning, I say. I walk a mile every morning unless the sidewalk says no. My blood pressure runs 128/78 on the meds I take with breakfast. I hold up the notebook because I wrote this all down on purpose. I have the prescriptions, Your Honor. I have a neighbor on the police force on speed dial. We have a code word. We changed our locks. The school updated its contacts. His counselor is here with a letter. Ms. Henderson steps up like she's been standing on a spring. She hands the clerk the letter, 3 copies. Noah lives with Mr. Miller, she says. He attends daily, participates fully, and is safe and supported. We recommend stability. Thank you, the judge says, reading quickly and nodding once like a stamp. Noah, would you like to address the court? You are not required to. Noah looks at me. I tip my head once. Yes, if you want. He steps to the microphone and does something I've seen him do at chess tournaments when a board gets noisy. He breathes and the room becomes a quiet square. I want to stay with my grandfather, he says. I have a bed there. I know where the cereal is. We have a plan for the next 3 months. I'm safe with him. A laugh flickers at the back of the courtroom and dies on the second step because the judge doesn't like it in her house. Ms. Hart, the judge says, do you have any evidence to rebut the petitioner's claim that he is the child's primary caregiver at this time? Lila's mouth opens and closes. He took my child, she says. He turned him against me. I'm not a boomerang, Noah says before I can stop him. The judge almost smiles at the floor to remind herself not to. Miss Hart, the court is not here to referee your quarrel with your father. We are here to determine temporary placement in the best interest of your son. She turns to me. Mr. Miller, finances? I open the ledger I don't usually let the world see. The columns are straight, the numbers honest. Pension sufficient for rent and food, I say. Utilities current under a payment plan. Medicine covered. We're cutting non-essentials. I'm taking on small engine repairs for cash. I've put the furnace part on layaway and will install it myself. The truck needs work. We'll use the bus if we have to. We have a budget for school fees and transportation. Thank you, the judge says. You brought the incident report and the school letter. Do you have any communications from Ms. Hart or Mr. Turner relevant to safety? I hand over the printed log from my phone with dates and summaries. Hank, from the bench, doesn't say a word, but the set of his shoulders is an endorsement. The judge reads for a minute that feels like weather. Outside, rain thickens and thinks about being sleet. When she looks up, she doesn't look undecided. All right, she says. On the basis of the evidence and the best interests of the child standard, the court grants temporary guardianship of Noah Hart to Franklin Miller for a period of 90 days. Review set for December 10th at 9 a.m. Ms. Hart is granted supervised visitation through Family Services Saturdays at 10 a.m. to commence when she completes intake and provides a verifiable address to the court. Mr. Turner is ordered to have no contact with the minor or the petitioner, direct or indirect. A temporary protective order will issue, effective upon service. She looks at me again. Mr. Miller, can you ensure Noah attends school, has stable housing, and receives medical care as needed? Yes, Your Honor, I say. The yes lands in my chest and builds a small, sturdy room. Ms. Hart, the judge says, these orders are not punishment. They are a path. If you wish to resume custody, the court will expect proof of stable housing, employment, or a plan for support, completion of parenting classes, and a period of consistent visitation. If you violate the no-contact order as it pertains to Mr. Turner and the child, the court will respond accordingly. Do you understand? Lila picks a thread on her sleeve like the answer is in the fiber. I understand, she says, and for a second she sounds like the girl on a gym stage who promised the world she knew how work worked. The judge signs 3 times and hands the stack to the clerk, with the rhythm of a drummer who's been keeping time for years. The gavel is gentle but final. In the hallway, Ms. Diaz squeezes my elbow. You did fine, she says. Now go home and keep doing fine. Ms. Henderson hugs Noah in a way that is mostly shoulder and completely approval. Hank shakes my hand long enough to say more than a handshake usually says. We'll run service on the protective order this afternoon, he says. I'll text when it's confirmed. Outside, the storm decides it wants to be more than talk. The sleet hits the steps and tries to make them a suggestion. We move slow and correct. Heels down, then toes, like men coming off a roof. At the bus stop, a woman in a red coat glances at our folders and then at my face. Good day or bad day? She asks, because bus stops make philosophers. Necessary day, I say. Back home, the house receives us with the practicality of old wood. No fanfare, just warmth from the oven and the smell of coffee because I set the timer for a mood like this one. We lay the court orders on the table and read them like instructions for a tool we're going to use every day for a while. I pin 1 copy to the corkboard, put 1 in the fireproof box, keep 1 in the truck for when I need to show anyone who thinks showing is required. After lunch, we walk to Murphy's Corner Market with a handwritten sign. Small engine repair. Honest work, fair price. Ask for Frank. I pin it under a picture of a cat with 1 ear and a hopeful description. Mr. Murphy himself comes out from behind the lottery counter. About time, he says. My snowblower blows smoke and shame. You can start with mine. Bring it round, I say. and the sentence puts something back inside me I didn't know I'd had on layaway too. On the way home, the wind shoves us down the block. The furnace manages a steady hum that sounds like it's doing its best. I make a call to the hardware store and put $20 on the blower motor like a man adding bricks to a wall he plans to finish before the rain gets ideas. At 4, my phone buzzes. Hank. Order served. 2 words, 1 inch of air. I text back a tomato emoji because jokes that are also code words are a kind we can afford. At 5, the truck makes a new sound, belt chatter, and I write serpentine belt on the same tape that holds blower motor. The tape looks like a short, honest poem. Here is what we need. Here is how we'll get it. Here is where we will wait. We eat soup we built from bones and scraps and a stubborn onion. The kind of meal that forgives men for having a day. After, Noah does homework under a lamp that casts a circle you can stay inside if the world gets loud. He stops once and looks up. What does guardianship mean, really? He asks. It means the judge and I agree on what we've been doing, I say. It means when someone asks who makes decisions for you, I don't have to say, we're figuring it out. I can point to a paper with my name on it and say, I do. It means your mother can see you Saturdays if she shows up ready to be your mother and not someone's girlfriend. It means no one knocks on our door after dark and says, get in the car. He nods and goes back to geometry, which is a comfort because shapes behave if you treat them right. At 7:30, the door rattles once. Not a knock, just a hand checking what used to be true. The new deadbolt holds and says its small word. No. I stand where I can see the window without being seen and wait. A shadow leaves the porch. A car door opens, tires whisper on wet street. I breathe again. The phone rings at 8. Private caller ID. I pick up because boundaries can lift the receiver without giving away the house. A man clears his throat on a connection that hums like a vending machine. Discipline, man, he says. Turner. You won a paper game today. I won a boy a quiet night, I say. You can't keep the storm off him forever. Maybe not, I say. But I can teach him how to nail the shutters before it hits. He laughs the way a man laughs when he thinks he invented danger. You installed new locks, he says. Cute. We learned a word, I say. Stronger than a lock. What word is that? No, I say, and hang up. I write the time and the gist in the notebook, because judges appreciate memory that doesn't rely on anger. Noah looks over from the table. Tomatoes? He asks. Tomatoes, I say, because the day has enough words, and that one carries us where we need to go. We set out our clothes for Saturday's tournament anyway, shoes polished with a rag that makes the leather remember where it came from. We sharpen his pencils and pack peanut butter sandwiches in wax paper, because wax paper makes a normal sound that says kitchens are still kitchens, even when courts are courts. Before bed, I call the hardware store and put $5 more on the motor because a man sleeps better when he knows he's moved something forward, even if it's an inch. I tape a new list to the fridge. Say tea, chess, 8:30 bus, sun, sauce, laundry, fence posts, north side. Mon, call family services, schedule intake for Lila. 2, belt check, budget. Yadid, thank you notes, judge's clerk, Ms. Diaz, Ms. Henderson. Thank you notes might sound foolish in a week like this, but I was raised to mark kindness when it passes through. Sometimes the only difference between a cold front and a blizzard is the shape of the thank you that gets said when the wind dies. In the night, the sleet turns to snow. The furnace hums without complaint, as if it heard about layaway and wants to earn its part. I think about the hearing, the iron-haired judge and her steady eyes, The way she made a path and told us to walk it. People will say I won. I didn't win. I showed up with a plan, told the truth, and the law and the weather both agreed to give me a day's worth of clear road. Tomorrow we play chess. After that, we set fence posts. A gate only knows how strong it is when it leans against something that means it. The storm can shout at the windows if it wants. Inside, a boy sleeps with his folder on the nightstand and his future under a roof that knows his name, and I stand a little longer at the upstairs window, watching the street fill up with what the sky let go, and I count it good. Saturday starts the way good days do, on time. We step onto the 8:30 bus with sharpened pencils and the kind of sandwiches that don't leak. Noah wears the school polo and a look I've come to trust. Coach nods at us in the lobby of the community center, shakes my hand like a man thanking a neighbor for a borrowed tool, and sends the team to their boards. A chess tournament sounds like nothing until you listen. Chairs breathe, shoes cough, timers click down 1,000 tiny endings. Noah plays like a boy who slept, who ate, who knows where the cereal is. In round 3, he walks a knight around the center squares, like a man measuring a room for new flooring. And when his opponent blunders a rook, Noah takes it without gloating. He draws the 4th game against a kid with wrists like saplings and a stare like new glass. Between rounds, we sit on the steps in the pale sun and eat our peanut butter. Coach comes by with a paper plate and an apple he splits with a hotel knife. Steady, he tells Noah. Steady beats flashy. On the bus home, the boy leans into me with the kind of tired that belongs to work. He doesn't look behind us, and neither do I. Still, somewhere 2 streets over, a motorcycle tells the afternoon how tough it is. Sunday is for fence posts. The north side leans like I promised. We run a string line from plum tree to corner and pull it tight enough to hum. I mark post centers with a nail. Noah reads the tape measure aloud like scripture. The ground gives us frost just under the skin. We dig anyway, cutting clean, keeping the walls square so the hole doesn't tell the post to misbehave. Discipline is a habit before it's a punishment, I say without planning to. It's a line you hold so you don't have to swing later. Noah looks up from his shovel. Like making homework the first thing, he says. Exactly, I say. Or like changing the lock before the knock. I show him how gravel at the bottom lets the water run off and the wood live longer. He crushes a handful and lets it clatter down like rain. We tamp the first 2 posts in by noon, plumb both ways, the bubbles sure in the little window. We break for soup. The furnace hums in its patient way, almost proud. I set my palm on the register and promise the blower motor its day is coming. The knock lands at 3:14 p.m. Not polite, impactful. The sound of a man who thinks doors are opinions. Noah freezes, then breathes. Tomatoes, he says. Tomatoes, I answer. I wipe my hands, step to the window upstairs first, like the drill says. 2 people on the porch. Lila in my old coat, hair clean, eyes unsteady. Turner beside her, shoulders squared to look like they can carry a life that isn't his. No police escort, no family services appointment. A car idles with its nose to the curb, a sedan that used to be silver and now is the color of rainwater. I call Hank before anything else. At your door, I say. Protective order in effect. On my way, he says. Call dispatch too. I do. The woman on the line asks my name, my address, and whether anyone's trying to force entry. Not yet, I say. But he knocks like he wants to educate the wood. Another knock. The door shivers in its frame. I go to the top of the stairs and speak through the closed air. This house does supervised visitation by appointment, I say, steady. Saturday's family services, not here, not today. Open up, old man, Turner says. His voice is whiskey over sand. You don't keep a boy from his mother. I'm not, I say. I'm keeping him from you. Lila's voice floats up, smaller than her coat. Dad, we can do this without rules. Just 10 minutes. The rules make the 10 minutes safe, I say. You know where to call. He hits the door hard enough to pop the framed photo on the entry table. The deadbolt holds. The jamb complains. Something splits. Just a whisper. Wood telling a story. That was close. Noah is at my shoulder. I put him behind me and lower my voice to the one that lives under the floorboards. Upstairs bathroom, I say. Lock. Back corner. Phone on. Tomatoes, if anything changes. He goes. I hear the small click that sounds like a house saying yes. Turner tries the knob. The new lock laughs in a small, precise way. He rakes something out of his pocket, maybe a card, maybe a tool, and finds out I used 3-inch screws on the strike plate because my father taught me one quiet trick for every loud problem. Mr. Turner, I say, louder. There's a protective order with your name on it. Back away from my door. Go stand on the sidewalk and wait for the officers to explain that to you with paperwork. He puts his shoulder into it this time. The door jumps an inch and comes back. The frame takes a thin bite of itself. I slide the chain latch across, a relic I never trusted until I put it there myself yesterday with new anchors. My right hand on the knob, my left braced against the wall. My knuckles find wood. They'll be purple later. Enough, I tell the door, as if it is a child who wants to run into traffic. Hold. Outside, a neighbor coughs a hello that isn't hello. Curtains move 2 houses down. A dog has opinions about the way afternoon has gone. He pounds again. The chain stretches, bites, holds. The part of me that installed it feels the math of it. The screws biting into framing, the link rated for load, the way the door distributes the hit. The part of me that is a man thinks about the pepper spray in the ceramic bowl by the umbrella stand. I don't use it. Not yet. I don't open the door the width of a face and invite a hand inside. I don't give him a courtroom of his own. I hold the knob and I breathe and I say, "You're breaking a court order, son." "I'm teaching you discipline," he says. "You set a line, I push until you move it. That's how it goes." "Your discipline is cruelty with a haircut," I say. "Mine is a list we keep together." I let my voice carry. "Noah, what's the word?" From upstairs, clear as water. "Tomatoes." "Tomatoes," I say back, to let Turner know this house speaks its own language. The sirens arrive not loud at first, and then appropriately. Tires on our curb, doors opening. Hank's voice on my porch before the others. "Mr. Turner," he says, and he uses Mr. the way a man uses a jack-handle. Functional. "Step off that porch now. Hands where I can see them." "This is family business," Turner says. "That's what court orders are for," Hank says. "Step back, now." Lila's tone shifts fast, the way it always did when authority showed up in a uniform. "Hank, he didn't do anything yet," she says. "We were just knocking." "The frame is split," Hank says. "That's forced entry. That's violation of a civil protection order. That's me having a very boring evening of paperwork if you're lucky, and a judge setting bond if you're not." His voice edges towards steel. "Back away." I open the door 2 inches, chain still on, pepper spray in my fist but down. "You okay, Frank?" Hank asks without turning his head. "I am," I say. My left hand throbs where it met wood. "The boy?" "Upstairs," I say. "Safe." Another cruiser pulls up. A younger officer reads off the order number I taped to the inside of the door for a moment like this and cross-checks it on his phone. A third one, older than his vest wants him to be, takes Turner's hands the way you take a tool you need to control and swings them behind. The click of cuffs is not loud, but it takes up space. "Lila Hart?" the young one asks. She draws her coat tighter. "What?" "You're listed on a supervised visitation schedule," he says. "You need to contact Family Services. Today's unscheduled. You can talk to your lawyer or to the intake clerk if you want the rules to change. Not me. Not him." He tips his head toward me without malice. "Not the man who lives here." She looks past him at me, and for a second I see the girl with stale bread for ducks. The kid who used to announce her spelling test scores on the walk home like she was reading a box score. "Dad," she says, and it's almost one syllable too many. Like she might say more, but there's no good ending for it. "Make the call," I tell her. "Do the intake. Come see your son where the rules make it safe." "I hate rules," she says. And then she follows Turner to the curb and sits on the cold edge of the porch, like a woman who forgot her gloves in another life. The officers walk Turner to the sedan and duck his head like courtesy. They read the lines about rights that always sound too big to fit inside one afternoon. The young one hands me a yellow copy of a form that says I was a person today in a way the law recognizes. Hank stands in my doorway and looks at the frame. He touches the split with 2 fingers and makes a face. "You got that?" he asks. "I've got wood glue, clamps, and 3-inch screws," I say. "I'll install a longer strike and a reinforcing plate." "Good," he says. "And ice those knuckles, Frank. You hit that door like it owed you money." We both look at my left hand. The skin over the middle knuckle is raw, already deciding which purple it wants to be. "Door tried to push a man I love," I say. So I pushed back. He nods like that is the whole case. "I'll write it clean," he says. "You keep doing the work you're doing." When the cars move off, the street exhales. The dog 2 doors down decides we are not a crisis. I shut the door, and the chain slides back without complaint. Noah comes down and looks at the frame, and then at my hand. "It held," he says. "It did," I say. "So did you." He takes the ice pack without being told, wraps it in a dish towel, and presses it to my knuckles with a seriousness that will make him good at whatever he decides to be good at. We sit for a minute listening to the house remember what it was doing before it had to be a shield. Then we fix the door. Wood glue in the hairline, clamps that bite down like a promise, pilot holes for longer screws that don't split what you're trying to save. The reinforcing plate goes on with a feel that says, I should have bought it yesterday, and today is just fine. I replace the tiny stock screws with ones that reach stud, not just trim. Noah holds the flashlight exactly where I need it. He always has. When we're done, the latch hits the strike without hiss or protest. I open and close the door 6 times like a man who has to hear, "It's fine," until he believes it. On the 7th, I let it be a door again and not a question. We make sauce because that was the plan. Sunday is sauce and plans matter. I brown the onions low and slow until they surrender and sweeten. Noah opens the tomatoes, the canned ones this time, and we both smile at the word. We set the pot to a lazy talk and sit at the table with the budget, the calendar, and the yellow copy of the form no one wants in a family scrapbook. "You okay?" Noah says after a while. "I am now," I say. "I wasn't when the door jumped. I was when it stopped." "That's how chess feels sometimes," he says. "You miss a line and then you find a different one." I point at my hand. This line left a mark. Badges, he says, and grins like a boy who understands you don't chase pain, but you don't pretend you don't earn it either. We write thank you notes because Monday is for delivery. One to Ms. Diaz for printing a map when the trail forked. One to the judge's clerk, who smiled at the birth certificate like it was a first day of school photo. One to Ms. Henderson, whose letter read like a plank across a creek right when we needed to cross. I write one to Hank too, though I know he'll make a joke about it and keep it in his glove box longer than he means to. After dishes, we walk the fence line with headlamps because we like to end a day by measuring something. The posts we set are true. The string line still hums when you pluck it. The ground has taken the holes and decided to be part of the project. Inside, I open the little gray box. I don't count the money. I count the habit again. The way a man who doesn't have much can still decide what happens to the small he has. I tuck the court order copy in with the ledger, because paper is a currency too. Before bed, I stand at the upstairs window and look at the porch where the afternoon tried to move us. The reinforcing plate flashes a dull, honest line when the streetlight hits it. I think about Turner's word, discipline, and about mine. His is a shove. Mine is a string pulled tight from here to there so the posts go in straight and the gate latches with a sound a boy can trust. I slide the window down and the frame seals against the night. In the middle of the dark, a text from Hank arrives. Arraign tomorrow a.m. Violation noted. No contact reissued. Keep your phone on. I answer with a tomato. He sends back a thumbs up and a picture of a dog that belongs to a cop with better boundaries than most. Sleep doesn't rush me. It comes like a man who knows the way through a familiar house, who can walk it without a light. When it takes me, it's because the day did its work and the door held and the boy is in his bed and the furnace is humming a small song about layaway that has turned into good faith. In the morning, we'll set 2 more posts. After that, we'll call family services to see if Lila did what the paper asked her to do. Maybe she will. Maybe she won't. The outcome can wait its turn. Today, we named what discipline is and isn't, and we put it in wood and glue and screws that go all the way to the stud. Some lessons you write with a pen, some you write in a door frame you plan to keep. The thaw doesn't announce itself. It sneaks in as a different sound under your boots. Less argument from the ground, more give. The maple out front drips like a faucet someone finally remembered to shut. The furnace blower hums even, new bearings paid for $5 at a time, and installed on a Tuesday afternoon with the good nut driver. When it kicks on now, it sounds like a man who knows what his job is and does it without complaint. December 10th came and went with the kind of weather that pretends it's not freezing if the sun shows up. We wore our collars and our steady faces. The judge read our file like she already knew how the sentence ended. Lila sat on the aisle with a purse that had nothing a courtroom needs. She'd completed intake at family services. She'd made 2 supervised visits and missed 1. The counselor's report was precise and kind. The judge granted guardianship for a year, review next December, with visitation to continue as scheduled. She said stability, the way a carpenter says level. When the gavel tapped, Noah squeezed my hand once under the table and then let go because men need both hands to pick up their lives. After that, the days found their grooves. Mondays we did the budget and sharpened pencils. Tuesdays we ate pasta, because carbs and chess pair well, Coach says. Wednesdays I put 20 into a coffee can marked motor until the can was empty and the furnace was right. Thursdays, I fixed one small thing: door hinge, cabinet runner, the rattle in the glove box that turned out to be 2 screws and a penny. Fridays, I called family services to confirm Saturday's time because hope likes a reminder, and so does policy. Saturdays, we did supervised visits when Lila showed up. Some weeks she did. On those days, Noah came home with a look that said the world is complicated, and he's not going to pretend it isn't. He ate 2 bowls of chili and then asked if we could set the board. We could. Business picked up exactly the way honest work does. Slow, then plenty enough. Murphy's snowblower stopped blowing shame and started throwing arcs that made the sidewalk look like I'd cut it with a table saw. Word spread. I fixed 2 mowers with old gas in their veins, a trimmer that just wanted a plug, and a generator that coughed itself into gratitude after a carburetor bath. I added a new line to the sign: Tune-ups by Aptee. The money came in small bills that smelled like laundry rooms and pocket lint. It went into the ledger and out again to groceries that last, to a serpentine belt that quieted the truck, to boots for Noah that don't argue with his feet when he has to stand in the cold and wait for a bus. We finished the fence on a Sunday that couldn't make up its mind about wind. The string line hummed. Each post went in plumb, gravel at the bottom like good advice. The gate swung and latched with a sound that became our own season. Click. Safe. We oiled the hinges and wrote fence, done on the fridge list like we were grading our own homework. Lila wrote a letter in January. It arrived in an envelope with no return address, and my name in the familiar quick handwriting that made grocery lists look important. It was heavier than the bills, but lighter than the catalogs. I set it on the table, and we looked at it like a tool we didn't need yet. Noah asked, "Do you want to read it?" in a voice that said he would match me either way. "I don't know what I want," I said. Then I put the letter in the fireproof box between the court order and the ledger, and I wrote on the tab, Lila, January. I didn't open it. That felt somehow like acceptance instead of refusal. The understanding that not all answers help and not all words improve a quiet room. Maybe some spring later, maybe never. The box holds a lot. Money, paper, faith. It can hold a letter, too. Turner faded like a bruise. There were hearings I didn't attend because I didn't need to. And then one day Hank said, he took a plea on the violation and another thing. He's got time and distance now. Time and distance. 2 tools I respect. I wrote them on the inside cover of my notebook like a man writes down the size of a socket he'll need again. Noah grew in the winter, the way boys do when you're busy with other facts, and then you look up and a jacket sleeves itself too short. He learned to make sauce without turning the onions bitter. He learned the lightest touch is often the right amount. On a chessboard, on a clogged jet, on a problem that looks worse if you muscle it. Coach gave him a small brass trophy in March for endgame clarity, which sounds like a sermon and sits like a promise. I built a shelf in the hallway, pine with a clean edge and 2 screws hidden where only the stud knows them. We set the trophy next to a smooth stone from the river and a photo of his grandmother holding a tomato like it was a lantern. When the ground softened, we dug a garden where the patchy lawn had been losing its argument with dandelions for years. Noah turned the soil with the fork, while I broke clods with my hands. We laid in compost the color of good decisions. We planted beans because they forgive your mistakes, peppers because they don't, and tomatoes because that word belongs to us. We said it aloud when we set the starts in. Tomatoes, he said. Tomatoes, I answered, and the birds didn't mind the joke. Saturdays changed shape as the air did. Supervised visits stayed on the calendar. Some she made, some she missed. When she came, she brought stories that weren't entirely true, gifts that were, and a longing that didn't know where to live. Noah learned how to leave a visit with his heart intact and his temper on its hook. We set our practice after. 15 minutes of fast walking around the block, 2 games of speed chess where the clock takes the blame for how quick you have to let go, and a glass of water you finish without speaking. The ritual worked. Routines are the opposite of chaos. They don't fight it. They starve it. In April, the school sent home a form for summer programs. Noah circled Intro to Coding, Woodshop, and Community Garden interns. We picked the one he couldn't do at home, coding, the one he should do with me, wood, and the one he could do with strangers who might become friends, garden. I added the fees to the budget and felt rich in the ways that matter. On a Tuesday that had no reason to be special, we drove the truck to the empty lot behind the hardware store, and I taught the boy how to steer between paint buckets, his hands at 10 and 2, his breath measured, his smile hiding just under the practice. Gentle, I said, and he was. We switched places when a delivery van nosed in. I am a man who respects likelihoods, not luck. Ms. Diaz called once a month through spring. Just checking the pulses, she said. Ours were good, Ms. Henderson sent home a note that said, Noah has become a quiet leader, which is what teachers write when a kid remembers to hold the door and knows when to push back a deadline because his plan is better than a rush. We wrote more thank you notes than most people send in a year. I stopped worrying about whether that was quaint. Gratitude has its own arithmetic. Give away some and somehow you keep more. The house held us. We patched what winter revealed. A little rot on the sill. One gutter that thought water was a suggestion. We replaced 2 smoke detector batteries on a Friday because the calendar said so, not the midnight chirp. I added a second lamp to the corner where Noah likes to read so his eyes can age one day later. I put felt pads under the chairs because the floor earned them. The front door's scar where the frame split is now a straight silver line under the paint, a seam that says 2 strong things met and decided to keep being a door. On Mother's Day, Noah asked if he could buy a plant for the supervised visit. He picked a pothos because they root easy and forgive forgetfulness. He carried it into family services in a paper bag with handles. He came out with no plant and a face that told me it was the right gift no matter where it ended up. We walked the ritual, the block, the speed chess, the water. She said she's trying, he said on the third corner. I told her I hope trying starts where the rules are. I nodded because 15 and truth are a clean combination if you don't overcomplicate it. The biggest change is quiet. Not absence, the good kind. It's breakfast where a spoon clinks on a mug and means nothing but coffee. It's the washer thumping and not pretending to be a warning. It's a boy asleep at midnight because he isn't waiting for a motorcycle to argue with the street. Quiet used to scare me. It sounded like being left. Now it sounds like a roof you trust. One evening in late May, we ate the first salad that came all the way from our yard. We dressed it with oil and vinegar like grown men who have opinions about ratios. I raised my fork like a toast. To tomatoes, I said. To code words that turn into dinner, he said, and we laughed the way people do when the joke and the timeline agree. Later, we sat on the porch, 2 chairs, 1 blanket across both our laps, because spring can still be petty at sundown. The street gave us the usual parade, dog walkers with tangled leashes, a jogger who tips his hat, a couple arguing politely and then holding hands anyway. The deadbolt clicked behind us like a friend reminding you it's there if you need it. The gate latched. The garden darkened by inches. Noah leaned back and closed his eyes. "What's the plan?" he said. Not like a question that needed a big answer, but a small one he wanted to hear again. "Same as it's been," I said. "Work we can see, paper where it matters, eat what grows. Say no when we must, say yes when we can. Keep the porch light on." "For who?" he asked, half asleep. "For us," I said. "And anyone who decides to come by the right way." We played one last game of chess by porch light. He got me in a net I saw and then pretended I didn't, because pride is a thing you tell to sit sometimes. He lifted the trophy when we went inside and set it back like it could feel the shelf underneath. In the hallway, he paused by the fireproof box, looked at the tab that said Lila, January, and didn't ask. That not asking was love in a language we learned late and still speak with an accent. When summer finally declared itself, the maple threw shade where the truck likes to rest. The repairs kept coming. The ledger kept balancing. The thank you notes slowed to one a month, then one for no reason at all other than the habit. The phone rang less with storms and more with normal. The school, Hank sending a picture of a grill he swears he tuned like a carb, Mrs. Diaz reminding us to keep copies of everything. Some nights I still wake at 3:11 and listen. Old habits are polite. They leave when they see there's nothing to guard against. I stand at the window anyway and let the dark tell me the street is fine. If a car idles where the light thins, it's a neighbor catching a song before going inside. If a motorcycle coughs, it passes. If the gate clicks, it's just wind making conversation with something that holds. I don't know what next December brings. I know what tomorrow does. Beans to trellis, a mower that needs a throttle cable, Noah's project on binary that will end with him explaining ones and zeros like they're fence posts and string lines. I'll sit at the table and learn, because that's my job now as much as any other. Be the steady surface where a boy can lay out the pieces and see how they go together. Before bed, I walk the garden once. The tomatoes already have opinions. The beans are cooperative. The peppers reserve judgment. I check the gate. It latches. I check the door. It closes with that honest sound we installed on a hard afternoon. I check the list on the fridge and add 3 words under tomorrow. Water the tomatoes. They're just plants. They're also a message we sent to ourselves in a week when saying no was the only yes we could afford. Now they climb twine we tied and throw fruit into our hands like an apology we don't require. I turn off the kitchen light. The house breathes. The quiet is not a gap. It is a choice fulfilled. And in that quiet, the two of us sleep like men who have work in the morning and a path we can find without turning on every lamp. If this story resonated with you, leave a like and consider subscribing. You can also drop any comment below, even just one word. Maybe tell me where you're watching from, or what time it is right now. Sometimes one word is enough to say you were here.